Admiral James Mitchell had seen many things in his 30 years of military service. He had watched the first human colony ships leave Earth. He had been there when humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. He had commanded battles against pirates in the Outer Rim, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The bridge of the UES Defiance was silent except for the steady hum of the engines. Through the massive viewing window, space looked normal. Stars dotted the darkness like tiny diamonds. Earth hung, in the distance blue and beautiful. Everything seemed peaceful. Then the sensors began screaming. "Admiral, we have multiple contacts," said Lieutenant Tom Bradley, his voice tight with fear. 200 ships, sir. They're massive." Mitchell moved to the sensor display. What he saw made his blood run cold. The alien ships were emerging from hyperspace one by one. Each vessel was the size of a small moon. The lead ship was so large, it blocked out the stars behind it. "Get me Captain Romano," Mitchell ordered, "and patch me through to Earth Command." Captain Lisa Romano arrived on the bridge within minutes. She was Earth's best diplomat, a woman who could talk her way out of any situation. But even she looked worried as she stared at the alien fleet. "How many?" she asked quietly. 200 confirmed, Mitchell replied. "Maybe more still coming through." Romano shook her head slowly. "Our entire fleet is only 43 ships." Mitchell nodded grimly. The math was simple and terrifying. Humanity's combined space force could not even match 1/5 of this alien armada. Each enemy ship probably had more firepower than 10 human vessels combined. The communication came without warning. Every screen on the bridge lit up with the same image. An alien face looked back at them. The creature had pale blue skin and large black eyes. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English. "Primitive species of Sol 3, you have been evaluated." The voice was cold and mechanical, clearly translated by some advanced computer system. But the message was clear enough. "Your expansion into space violates Galactic Treaty 7039. You have 72 of your planetary rotations to cease all interstellar activity and return to your homeworld. This is the mercy of the Council. Accept it." Mitchell felt his hands clench into fists. Mercy. They called this mercy. The alien continued speaking. "We are the Galactic Council. We have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. We bring order to chaos. We bring peace to war. We have watched your species, humans, of Earth. We have studied your history." Images began flashing on the screen. Pictures of human wars, battles from Earth's bloody past, cities burning, people dying. "Your kind is violent. Your history is written in blood. You fight each other over land, over resources, over ideas. You cannot be trusted with the freedom of space. Yet the Council offers clemency." More images appeared. Peaceful alien worlds, clean cities, orderly societies. "Look upon the peace we bring. Look upon the order we maintain. Withdraw now to your homeworld. Live as a contained species. Accept our protection. This offer will not be repeated." The transmission ended. The bridge fell into complete silence. Mitchell looked around at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but also something else. Anger. The same anger he felt burning in his chest. "Sir," said Lieutenant Bradley, "Earth Command is requesting immediate conference." "Put them through," Mitchell replied. The face of General Patricia Moore appeared on screen. She looked tired and worried. Behind her, Mitchell could see the busy command center of Earth's military headquarters. "James, tell me you have good news," she said. "I wish I did, Pat. 200 ships, each one bigger than anything we've ever built. They're giving us 72 hours to pack up and go home." Moore was quiet for a moment. "What do you think?" Mitchell looked out at the alien fleet. Their ships hung in space like sleeping giants, beautiful in their own way, but terrifying in their size and power. I think they don't understand humans very well, he said finally. Captain Romano stepped forward. General, they keep using that word. Mercy. They think they're being kind to us. Are they? Moore asked. Romano shook her head. No, ma'am. They're offering us a cage. A very nice cage, but still a cage. They want us to give up everything that makes us human. Our curiosity, our drive to explore, our need to grow and learn and discover new things. Mitchell nodded. They looked at our history and saw only the wars. They didn't see the art. They didn't see the music. They didn't see people helping strangers. They didn't see humans dying to save others. They saw the worst of us and decided that's all we are. The general was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. The president has called an emergency session of Congress. Every nation on Earth is sending representatives. We have 18 hours to decide humanity's response. The screen went dark. Mitchell walked to the viewing window and stared out at the alien fleet. So massive, so powerful, so sure of themselves. Captain Romano, he said without turning around. Yes, sir? Do you think we should accept their offer? Romano joined him at the window. What do you think, Admiral? Mitchell smiled, but it was not a happy smile. I think they made a mistake. What mistake? They think mercy means making the hard choice for someone else. They think mercy is forcing peace on people who don't want it. They think mercy is putting someone in a cage to keep them safe. Mitchell turned to look at Romano. But that's not mercy, is it? That's just another kind of cruelty. Romano nodded slowly. Real mercy is giving someone the choice, even if they might make the wrong one. Exactly, Mitchell said. And they didn't give us a choice. Not really. They gave us an ultimatum. Lieutenant Bradley looked up from his station. Admiral, we're getting signals from the other human ships. They're all asking for orders. Mitchell looked around the bridge one more time. His crew was watching him, waiting for his decision. But this wasn't his decision to make. This was bigger than one admiral or one ship or even one fleet. Tell all ships to maintain position, he ordered. We wait for word from Earth. But deep, in his heart, Mitchell already knew what that word would be. He knew because he understood something the aliens didn't. Humans were not a species that accepted cages easily. They were not a people who gave up their dreams because someone else thought it was safer. The aliens had offered humanity mercy. Soon, they would learn what human mercy looked like in return. The emergency session of the United Earth Congress had been going on for 16 hours. President Jennifer Walsh sat at the head of the massive conference table, watching representatives from every nation on Earth argue about humanity's future. The Great Hall was packed. Presidents, prime ministers, senators, and diplomats filled every seat. Some had flown in from the farthest colonies. Others had joined by video link from ships scattered across human space. All of them were tired, worried, and angry. We cannot fight them, said President Chen of the Asian Federation. His face was pale with exhaustion. 200 ships against our 43. It is not war, it is suicide. Prime Minister Williams of the European Union shook her head. So we just give up? We abandon every colony, every outpost, every dream we have ever had? Better to live in a cage than die in space, Chen replied. The argument that followed was loud and bitter. Some representatives wanted to accept the alien ultimatum immediately. Others demanded total war. A few suggested trying to negotiate for better terms. President Walsh listened to it all without speaking. She had been awake for 20 hours straight. Coffee and determination were the only things keeping her going. But she knew this decision would define humanity forever. Finally, she stood up. The room slowly fell quiet. I want to hear from Maria Santos, Walsh said. All eyes turned to the woman sitting near the back of the room. Maria Santos had been a combat pilot before becoming a politician. She had fought in the colony wars. She had seen friends die in the darkness of space. Now she represented the outer colonies, the settlements that would be abandoned first if humanity accepted the alien offer. Santos stood up slowly. She was a small woman, but her voice carried clearly across the silent hall. "They call it mercy," she said, "but mercy implies we have done something wrong. What is our crime? We explored. We built colonies. We reached for the stars because that is what humans do. That is what we have always done." She walked to the center of the room as she spoke. Every representative watched her carefully. When our ancestors lived in caves, they looked at the horizon and wondered what was beyond it. When they lived on islands, they built boats to cross the ocean. When they lived on one continent, they found ways to reach others. And when they lived on one planet, they built ships to reach the stars. Santos stopped walking and looked around. The room. This is not a flaw in human nature. This is not a bug that needs to be fixed. This is who we are. This is what makes us human. President Chen leaned forward. "But if we fight, we will all die." "Maybe," Santos agreed. "But if we surrender, we will all become something else. Something smaller. Something less than human." She turned to face the entire assembly. The aliens looked at our history and saw only war. They saw the battles and the bloodshed and decided that is all we are. But they missed something important. Santos smiled for the first time since entering the room. They missed the fact that we usually fight for something. We fight for our families. We fight for our friends. We fight for strangers we will never meet. We fight for ideas and dreams and hopes. The room was completely silent now. Even the representatives who had been arguing for surrender were listening carefully. "Yes, we have wars," Santos continued. "Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we sometimes hurt each other. But we also help each other. We save people from burning buildings. We donate blood to strangers. We adopt children who are not our own. We feed people we do not know." She paused, letting her words sink in. "The aliens saw our worst moments and decided those moments define us. But what if our best moments define us instead? What if the fact that we keep trying to be better is what matters most?" Prime Minister Williams nodded slowly. "You are saying we should fight." "I am saying we should choose," Santos replied. "They want to make the choice for us. They want to decide our future because they think we are too dangerous to decide for ourselves. But choosing is what makes us human, even if we choose wrong." President Walsh had been watching the faces around the room. She could see minds changing. She could see fear turning into something else. "All in favor of accepting the alien ultimatum?" she asked. Hands went up around the room. Walsh counted them carefully. 731 votes. All in favor of rejection? More hands rose. Walsh counted again. 847 votes. Abstentions? The final count was 56. President Walsh stood up again. "The motion to reject the alien ultimatum passes. We will not surrender our colonies. We will not abandon our future. We will not accept their cage." The room erupted in cheers and applause, but also in worried whispers and fearful conversations. Everyone knew what this meant. War was coming. Colonel David Harper was in his fighter bay when the orders came through. He was only 32 years old, the youngest person ever to command a strike wing. His pilots called him Lucky Dave because he had never lost a wingman in combat. Today, his luck would be tested like never before. The message was short and direct. Operation Last Stand, engage the enemy fleet. Show them what mercy actually looks like. Harper gathered his pilots in the briefing room. 24 men and women, the best fighter pilots humanity had ever produced. They looked at him with trust and confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "Congress has voted. We fight." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Lieutenant Sarah Phillips raised her hand. "Sir, what are our objectives?" Harper smiled grimly. "Survive as long as possible. Make them pay for every inch of space." Show them that humans do not go quietly into that good night. As his pilots prepared their fighters, Harper received one final communication from the alien fleet. The same cold voice from before filled the communication channel. We detect your ship movements. This is illogical. You cannot prevail. Accept our mercy. Harper looked at his pilots, then at the alien fleet on his tactical display. 200 massive ships against humanity's tiny force. The aliens were right about one thing. Humans could not win this battle. But they could do something else. Harper opened the communication channel and spoke words that would be remembered for 1,000 years. You offered us mercy once. Now let us show you ours. The die was cast. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The battle began at 3:47 in the morning, Earth Standard Time. Commander Sarah Phillips was leading the first wave of human fighters when the alien fleet opened fire. The darkness of space erupted in brilliant flashes of energy. Phillips gripped the controls of her fighter, the Valkyrie, as alien weapons lit up the void around her. Her squadron of 12 fighters looked tiny compared to the massive enemy ships. Each alien vessel was the size of a city. Each human fighter was smaller than a house. Phoenix Wing, this is Phoenix 1, Phillips broadcast to her pilots. Remember what Colonel Harper told us. We are not trying to win this battle. We are trying to make them remember us. The alien fighters came at them like a swarm of metal wasps. They were sleek and fast, with weapons that could cut through human armor like paper. But the aliens made one mistake. They fought like machines. Humans fought like they had nothing left to lose. Phillips dove her fighter straight into the enemy formation. Her wingman, Lieutenant Mike Torres, stayed right beside her. Behind them, the rest of Phoenix Wing followed without hesitation. Sarah, there are too many of them, Torres said over the radio. I know, Phillips replied, firing her weapons at an alien fighter. But look how they fly. They are careful. They are afraid of taking damage. She was right. The alien pilots were skilled, but they flew defensively. They tried to avoid taking hits. They retreated when their shields got low. They valued their own lives. Human pilots had learned different lessons. In the colony wars, they had fought pirates who outnumbered them 10-1. They had learned that sometimes the only way to win was to be willing to lose everything. Phillips watched an alien fighter bearing down on Torres. Without hesitation, she turned her ship directly into the alien's path. The two fighters collided in a ball of fire and metal. Both pilots died instantly, but Torres lived, and he took that alien's wingman with him 30 seconds later. This was how the Battle of Luna began, with humans making choices that no rational species would make, with pilots who turned their fighters into weapons when their guns ran dry, with crews who stayed at their posts when their ships were falling apart around them. Captain Michael Torres, Mike's older brother, commanded the heavy cruiser Indomitable. His ship was one of humanity's most powerful warships, but it was still dwarfed by the alien vessels attacking it. The Indomitable shook under enemy fire. Hull plates peeled away like flower petals. Atmosphere rushed out through dozens of holes. The lights flickered as power systems failed. Captain, we have hull breaches on all decks, reported his first officer, Commander Lisa Park. Engineering says the reactor is going critical. Torres looked at his tactical display. 3 alien cruisers were closing in for the kill. His ship was dying, but those alien vessels were still healthy and strong. How long until reactor overload? He asked. 2 minutes, sir, Torres smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was determined. Set course for the nearest alien ship. Full power to engines. Commander Park stared at him. Sir, that is suicide. No, Torres replied. That is making sure they remember us. The Indomitables. Engines roared to life one final time. The dying ship accelerated toward the largest alien cruiser. Torres opened a communication channel that would be heard across the entire battlefield. This is Captain Michael Torres of the UES Indomitable. Hull breaches on all decks, reactor critical. Any alien ship within 10,000 kilometers, you are coming with me. The explosion lit up the dark side of Luna like a second sun. The alien cruiser vanished in the fireball. Two other alien ships were caught in the blast and crippled, but something strange was happening. Admiral Rachel Green, commanding the orbital defense platforms around Earth, noticed it first. The alien fleet was changing its behavior. "Admiral," said her aide, Lieutenant Robert Hayes, "the aliens are pulling back their damaged ships instead of pressing the attack." Green watched her tactical display carefully. The young officer was right. In the first day of battle, the aliens had fought with cold efficiency. They had finished off damaged human ships quickly and moved on to new targets. Now they were hesitating. "They are learning something," Green said quietly. She was right. On the alien command ship, Fleet Commander Talon was watching reports from the battle with growing confusion. His species, the Althari, had fought many wars across the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never seen anything like this. The humans were not just fighting to win. They were fighting to save each other. When a human ship was damaged, other ships would risk themselves to help it escape. When a human pilot was in trouble, his wingmen would die to protect him. "Commander," said his aide, "the humans are using tactics that make no logical sense. They sacrifice valuable ships to save less valuable ones. They waste ammunition to cover retreating enemies." Talon watched a human destroyer ram one of his frigates to stop it from attacking a damaged human transport. The destroyer was worth far more than the transport, but the humans did not seem to care. "They fight for each other," Talon said, more to himself than to his aide. This was alien to the Althari way of thinking. In their culture, the strong survived and the weak perished. Resources went to those who could use them most effectively. Individual lives mattered less than the success of the whole, but these humans seemed to believe that every life had value. They would risk everything to save a single pilot. They would sacrifice their best ship to protect their weakest one. By the third day of battle, something unprecedented was happening. Some alien ships were not firing immediately when they had clear shots at damaged human vessels. Some alien fighters were breaking off attacks when human pilots ejected from their cockpits. The aliens were learning mercy from their enemies. Commander Talon found himself watching a human pilot whose fighter had been crippled. The pilot could have ejected safely, but his ship was drifting toward an alien cruiser. If it hit, dozens of alien crew members would die. Instead of ejecting, the human pilot used his last bit of fuel to steer his ship away from the alien vessel. He saved enemy lives at the cost of his own. That night, Talon did something he had never done before. He opened a private communication channel to his superiors on the Council homeworld. "Council," he said, "I must report something unusual about these humans." The response was swift and cold. "Report your progress, Commander. How soon will the termination be complete?" Talon hesitated. For 12,000 years his people had served the Council without question. But now, for the first time in his life, he was not sure they were right. "Council," he said finally, "I think we may have made an error in judgment. Admiral Rachel Green had been fighting for 4 days without sleep. Her flagship, the Roosevelt, was held together by emergency welds and the determination of her crew. Half the ship's systems were offline. The hull was cracked in 3 places. But they were still fighting. Green stood on her damaged bridge, watching something impossible happen on her tactical display. The alien fleet was changing. Ships that should have been pressing their advantage were pulling back. Weapons that should have been firing at helpless human vessels were staying silent. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Robert Hayes, her communications officer, "I am detecting massive signal traffic throughout the alien fleet. They are debating something." Green moved closer to Hayes's station. The young officer had been monitoring alien communications since the battle began. His equipment could not translate their language, but it could measure the intensity and frequency of their transmissions. "Show me," Green ordered. Hayes pointed to his screen. Normally, alien fleet communications were brief and efficient. Orders went out from the command ship. Acknowledgements came back from the other vessels. Simple and clean. Now the display showed something completely different. Long conversations between ships, heated arguments between commanders. Some vessels were even refusing direct orders from their fleet commander. They are arguing about us. Green realized she was right. On the alien command ship, Fleet Commander Talon was facing the biggest crisis of his career. Half his captains were questioning their orders. Some were refusing to fire on damaged human ships. Others were demanding to know why they were killing a species that showed such honor in battle. Captain Varric of the heavy cruiser Dominion was the most vocal opponent. "Commander, these humans fight like no species we have ever encountered. They die for strangers. They sacrifice themselves for their enemies. How can we call them primitive?" Talon had been asking himself the same question. In 4 days of battle, he had watched human pilots ram their fighters into alien ships to save crippled transports. He had seen human crews stay at their posts, while their ships burned around them. He had witnessed human captains sacrifice their own vessels to protect alien survivors. "The Council has given us our orders," Talon replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "The Council was wrong," Varric said bluntly. "These humans have shown us what honor really means, what mercy really means, and we repay them with extinction." The argument that followed split the alien fleet down the middle. Some captains still wanted to follow orders and complete the destruction of humanity. Others believed the humans had proven themselves worthy of respect, even admiration. Admiral Green watched this transformation from her crippled bridge. She could not understand the alien language, but she could see the results. Enemy ships that had been coordinating perfectly were now moving independently. Some were still attacking human vessels. Others were holding their fire. "Ma'am," said Commander Janet Mills, her tactical officer, "the alien formation is breaking. Apart. Some ships are pulling back to minimum engagement range." Green studied the display. The alien fleet was no longer fighting as one unit. Individual ships were making their own decisions about when and how to attack. Some were even moving to protect human vessels from other alien ships. Then Lieutenant Hayes received a transmission that changed everything. "Admiral," he said, his voice filled with shock, "I am getting a direct communication from the alien fleet. Commander, he wants to speak with you personally." Green felt her heart skip a beat. In 4 days of warfare, the aliens had never attempted direct communication with human commanders. They had issued ultimatums and demands, but never conversations. "Put him through," she ordered. The main screen flickered to life. Fleet Commander Talon appeared, his pale blue skin marked with scars from his own military service. When he spoke, his words were halting and uncertain. "Human Commander, I am Talon of the Althari Council Fleet. I must speak with you about your species." Green straightened her uniform as best she could. "I am Admiral Rachel Green of the United Earth Space Force. What do you want to discuss?" Talon was quiet for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. "Your people fight strangely. You sacrifice the strong to save the weak. You risk valuable ships to protect worthless ones. You even try to save our lives when you could destroy us instead." "And this surprises you?" Green asked. "It confuses us," Talon admitted. "In our society, the strong survive and the weak perish. Resources go to those who can use them best. Individual lives matter less than the success of the whole." Green nodded slowly. "That is not how humans think." "No," Talon agreed. "You believe every life has value. You will risk everything to save a single person. You show mercy to your enemies, even when they show none to you." The alien commander paused. Again. "Yesterday, one of your pilots could have ejected safely from his damaged fighter. Instead, he used his last fuel to steer his ship away from our cruiser. He saved 47 of my crew members with his life." Green remembered the incident. Lieutenant Danny Walsh, a kid from Ohio who had joined the Space Force to see the galaxy. He had died saving people who were trying to kill him. That pilot had a choice, Green said. He could save himself or save others. He chose others. Why? Talon asked. Because that is what humans do, Green replied simply. We believe that. Saving life is more important than preserving our own lives. We believe that mercy is not weakness but strength. Talon looked directly at her through the screen. Your species has taught us something we had forgotten. We came to this system to bring order through force. You have shown us that true order comes from choice. True strength comes from mercy. Green felt hope stirring in her chest for the first time in days. What are you saying, Commander? I am saying that the Council may have been wrong about your species. I am saying that perhaps it is time for us to learn from you instead of destroying you. Behind Talon, Green could see other alien officers nodding in agreement. The transformation was spreading through their fleet. But then another voice cut through the transmission, cold and hard and filled with ancient authority. Fleet Commander, Talon, you will complete your mission immediately. This is a direct order from the Council. Talon's face went pale. He looked at Green one last time before the transmission cut out. The real test was about to begin. President Jennifer Walsh was deep underground in the emergency bunker beneath Geneva when the impossible happened. She had been coordinating Earth's defense for 5 days, watching humanity's fleet die ship by ship against overwhelming odds. Every report brought worse news. Every hour brought them closer to extinction. Then Lieutenant Colonel James Murphy burst into the command center with news that changed everything. Madam President, he said, breathing hard from running, the alien fleet is splitting apart. Some ships are attacking others. We think they are fighting each other. Walsh looked at the main tactical display. Murphy was right. The alien formation that had been so perfect and coordinated was now scattered across space. Red indicators showed battles happening between alien vessels. Some ships were moving to protect human colonies. Others were retreating toward the edge of the solar system. What is happening out there? Walsh asked. Her answer came in the form of a direct transmission. The alien fleet commander appeared on every screen in the bunker. But this time he was not delivering an ultimatum. Humans of Earth, said Fleet Commander Talon, I am Talon of the Althari. I must tell you something that has never happened in the 12,000-year history of the Galactic Council. Walsh moved closer to the screen. The alien looked tired and worried, much like she felt. My fleet came here to destroy you, Talon continued. The Council ordered your extinction because they believed you were too dangerous to live. They were wrong. Behind Talon, Walsh could see the bridge of his command ship. Other aliens were working frantically at their stations. Some looked afraid, others looked determined. Your species has shown us something we had lost long ago, Talon said. You fight not with hate, but with love. You die not for conquest, but for each other. You show mercy to your enemies even when they offer you none. Walsh felt her heart pounding. Was this really happening? Was an alien commander actually defending humanity? The Council will send another fleet, Talon warned. A larger one. They will not make the mistake of sending commanders who might develop sympathy for your kind, but you will not face them alone. The image shifted to show space outside Talon's ship. Walsh gasped at what she saw. Nearly half the alien fleet had formed a protective formation around Earth and its colonies. They were pointing their weapons outward, ready to defend humanity instead of destroying it. Some of us remember what it means to fight for something greater than ourselves, Talon said. You have reminded us. You have shown us that mercy is not weakness, but the highest form of strength. General Patricia Moore, who had been standing beside Walsh, stepped forward. You are protecting us? Your own people will consider you traitors. Talon nodded sadly. Yes, we can never return home. We have chosen exile over honor, conscience over duty. But you have shown us that some choices are worth making, even when they cost us everything. President Walsh found her voice. Why? Why? Are you doing this for us? Talon smiled. It was the first time Walsh had seen an alien show that expression. Because you offered us something the Council never could, he replied. You showed us mercy by teaching us its meaning. Your legend will spread across the galaxy, whether the Council wants it to or not. Over the following weeks, something extraordinary happened. Ships began arriving from across known space. Not invasion fleets, but refugees. Species that had been conquered by the Council years or centuries ago. They had heard the story of humanity's stand at Luna. They had learned about the species that taught mercy to their enemies. Ambassador Dr. Helen Carter was appointed to lead Earth's first diplomatic mission to these refugee fleets. She was a former professor who had studied alien cultures for 30 years. Now she found herself dealing with 47 different species, all seeking alliance with humanity. They are not coming for our protection, she reported to President Walsh. They are coming for our principles. The refugees brought stories with them. Tales of council oppression that had lasted for millennia. Accounts of species forced to abandon their home worlds. Descriptions of entire cultures wiped out for the crime of independence. But they also brought hope. The story of humanity's mercy was spreading faster than the Council could contain it. On worlds across the galaxy, people were asking questions they had never dared ask before. Why should they accept slavery? Why should they bow to the Council's will? Why should they live in fear when humans had shown another way was possible? Captain Rebecca Stone of the exploration vessel Discovery was among the first humans to visit one of the refugee fleets. What she found amazed her. They have turned their cargo bays into museums, she reported. Museums dedicated to the Battle of Luna. They have built shrines to our pilots who died. They tell stories about Captain Torres and Commander Phillips, like they were heroes from their own history. The aliens had given humanity a name. They called them the Merciful Ones, not because humans spared their enemies, but because they spared them from becoming monsters. Talon, now an exile from his own people but a hero to the Alliance, explained it during one of his meetings with Dr. Carter. Your species could have destroyed us, he said. You had every reason to hate us. We came to your home with the intention of genocide, but instead of becoming like us, you showed us how to become like you. Carter looked out at the growing fleet of refugee ships, dozens of species working together, united not by fear, but by hope. The Council still rules most of the galaxy, she pointed out. For now, Talon agreed. But legends have a way of growing. Your story is being told on 1,000 worlds. Children who have never seen a human are learning about mercy from your example. Dr. Carter smiled. And what do they learn? They learn that strength comes not from the power to destroy, but from the choice to create. They learn that mercy is not something you give to the weak, but something you offer to the strong who choose to be better. Talon paused, looking at the stars beyond the viewport. They learn that some battles are won not by defeating your enemies, but by helping them defeat themselves. You could have made us into monsters. Instead, you made us into something better. The legend was growing. Across the galaxy, on worlds humanity had never seen, the story was being told. The story of a small species that refused to surrender their dreams. The story of people who showed mercy to those who offered them none. The story of humans who had been offered mercy once and turned it into something that would outlive them all. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Luna. Ambassador Dr. Helen Carter stood before the newly formed Interspecies Assembly, looking out at representatives from 47 different worlds. The Great Hall was filled with beings she could barely have imagined before the war. There were the tall, graceful Villani with their silver skin, the stocky, rock-like granite people from the outer rim, the floating, jellyfish-like ethereals who communicated through color changes, and dozens of other species, all united by a single shared experience. They had all heard the legend of humanity. Carter wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. She was 58 years old now, with gray streaks in her hair and laugh lines around her eyes. The past 5 years had been the busiest and most rewarding of her life. "Fellow beings," she began. Her words translated instantly into 47 languages. 5 years ago, we were enemies. 5 years ago, we were strangers. 5 years ago, we lived in fear. The assembly was completely silent. Representatives from species that had been enemies for centuries sat side by side. Former council subjects worked alongside their former oppressors. All of them listened to the human ambassador with respect and attention. Today we gather not as subjects of the Galactic Council, but as free beings choosing our own path. We gather not in conquest but in cooperation. We gather not in fear but in hope. Applause filled the hall. It came in many forms. Some species clapped their hands. Others clicked their claws. The ethereals pulsed with bright colors. The harmonics sang in perfect pitch. Each species expressed approval in their own way, but the message was universal. Former Fleet Commander Talon sat in the front row. He wore the simple gray robes of the Alliance instead of his old military uniform. His people had declared him a traitor and exile, but here he was, treated as a hero. The scars on his blue skin had healed, but the scars on his soul had transformed into something else entirely. Wisdom, peace, understanding. "We learned something important 5 years ago," Carter continued. "We learned that mercy is not something you give to the weak. It is something you offer to the strong who choose to be better." She gestured toward Talon. "This being came to destroy us. His fleet had the power to turn our worlds to ash. But when he saw how we fought, when he saw how we died for each other and even for our enemies, he made a choice." Talon stood slowly. At 67, he was considered young for his species. But the events of the past 5 years had aged him. His large black eyes held a depth that had not been there before. "I learned that day what true strength looks like," he said, his words carrying clearly across the hall. "I learned that the greatest victory is not defeating your enemy, but helping them become your friend." The applause that followed was longer and louder than before. Carter waited for it to fade before continuing. "The Galactic Council still rules most of the known galaxy. Their fleets still patrol the spaceways. Their laws still govern 1,000 worlds. But something has changed." She activated a holographic display that showed the current political situation. The galaxy was divided into 3 parts. The Council controlled about 60%, shown in red. Independent systems controlled about 20%, shown in yellow. The Human Alliance controlled only 20%, shown in blue. But the blue areas were growing. "Every month, new species join our alliance," Carter explained. "Not because we conquer them, but because they choose to join us. Not because we threaten them, but because we offer them something the Council never could." Captain Maria Santos, now Admiral Santos and commander of the Alliance fleet, stood up from her seat. She was 45 years old and had become one of the most respected military leaders in known space. "We offer them the right to choose their own future," Santos said. "We offer them the right to make their own mistakes. We offer them the right to be human." The phrase had become common throughout the Alliance. To be human did not mean to belong to the species from Earth. It meant to choose mercy over vengeance. It meant to help others become better instead of tearing them down. It meant to fight for what was right even when the odds were impossible. Many species in the Alliance had never seen a human in person, but they all understood what it meant to be human. Dr. William Hayes, son of the communications officer who had first detected the alien fleet, now served as the Alliance's chief scientist. At 28, he was leading research projects that involved dozens of species working together. "The Council fears us," he reported to the Assembly. "Not because of our military power, but because of our ideas. They cannot stop the spread of our legend. They cannot silence the story of mercy defeating hatred." He was right. Intelligence reports from across the galaxy told the same story. Council worlds were experiencing unprecedented levels of dissent. Species that had accepted Council rule for millennia were questioning their masters. Young beings were asking why they should bow to the Council when humans had shown another way was possible. The Council had tried to suppress the story of the Battle of Luna. They had made it illegal to speak of human mercy. They had executed beings caught spreading the tale of humanity's stand against impossible odds. But legends are harder to kill than people. The story spread in whispers and songs. It was carved into hidden walls and encoded in secret messages. Parents told it to their children as a bedtime story. Teachers shared it as an example of courage, the story of the species that turned mercy into a weapon more powerful than any fleet. As the assembly session ended, Carter found herself standing alone with Talon on the observation deck. Through the great windows, they could see the Alliance fleet. Human ships flew alongside alien vessels. Former enemies worked together to build a better future. "Do you ever regret your choice?" Carter asked. Talon was quiet for a long moment. "I lost my home," he said finally. "I lost my family. I lost everything I had known for 67 years. Carter felt a stab of sadness. She had never fully understood what Talon had sacrificed to help humanity. "But," Talon continued, "I gained something more valuable. I gained the knowledge that there is another way to live. I gained friends who would die for strangers. I gained the right to choose mercy over duty." He turned to look at her with those large, dark eyes. "Your species taught me that honor is not following orders without question. Honor is questioning orders when they are wrong. Honor is choosing to be better than you were yesterday." Carter smiled. "And what do you think will happen next?" Talon looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was planning their response to the growing alliance. Somewhere out there, new species were hearing the human legend for the first time. Somewhere out there, the future was being written. "I think," Talon said slowly, "that you humans have already won. You may not control the galaxy yet, but you have changed it forever. You have planted seeds of mercy that will grow for generations." He paused. "The Council offered your species mercy once. They thought mercy was weakness. They thought mercy was surrender." Talon smiled. "They never understood that mercy is the strongest force in the universe. It is the one thing that can turn an enemy into a friend. It is the one thing that can make someone choose to be better than they are." Carter nodded. In the distance, she could see Earth, the small blue world that had refused to surrender its dreams. It looked so peaceful from here, so fragile. So beautiful. "We were honored with a legend," she said quietly. "No," Talon corrected her. "You became the legend. You became the proof that there is another way to live. You became the hope that will light the galaxy for centuries to come." The stars watched silently as two former enemies stood together, looking toward a future neither could have imagined 5 years before. A future built on the foundation of human mercy, a future that honored the legend of the species that refused to surrender their dreams.